I, 34 female, live with my husband, 37, and daughter, pre-tween. My daughter and I recently went on a short trip out of state while my husband stayed as he had to work and was supposed to look after our dog. On the last day of our trip, we got a call from my husband, who was acting distraught and said that our dog Ellie had run away and that he could not find her. He claimed she just bolted away from him in the park into some bushes and he couldn't find her. Our dog is quite small, a mini poodle mix, and almost 13 years old. She is still active, but it's really unlike her to run away from us. And I was suspicious, but chose to believe my husband, and me and my daughter were grief, but didn't want to blame him. When we came back home, he seemed surprisingly okay, unlike us. Ever since the global issue, my husband started working from home, and he's always been annoyed at how much attention we gave Ellie and hated how Ellie begged us to sit on our laps while he worked. A few days later, we got a call from an animal rescue in a neighboring state, quite far from us, that she had been found. I picked up the phone, and it was on our landline, which we rarely use, but it was the contact on the microchip. I told my husband, and he just said, "That's great, I'm so happy." But it felt kind of blunt and insincere. I said it was strange that she got so far, and he responded that someone must have stolen her and then abandoned her. This made little sense to me as to why that would happen. When he was out drinking with his buddies, I copied the videos from his dash cam for the days I was away and saw that he had indeed taken Ellie far out of state and clearly dropped her off in front of his car, throwing a frisbee-like object into a field, yelled "fetch," and drove off without her. I was livid and confronted him, and he just stupidly muttered how he dropped her there so she could find a farm and have a better life, and then the next day got really angry at me for viewing his dash cam and called me and my daughter idiots. Not the idiot. Keep your dog and daughter and leave the husband in another state to find another family he'd have a better life with. Remember to throw him a frisbee and the wedding band. Then yell "fetch." Wow, you had a gut feeling and were absolutely right. This is horrible. What your husband did is sick and cruel. He left an innocent animal to die. Obviously, what you do now is up to you, but if it were me, I would never be able to trust him again. The entire relationship would be ruined. He needs to seek therapy if he's so insecure that he's jealous of a dog. A pathetic excuse for a man. Your dash cam footage will go a long way in court. I personally would straight up divorce him. My dogs are my family. Then he turns around and gets mad and calls you names? That's the same tactic that cheaters use when their significant other finds something, trying the old Uno reverse on you. Really, OP, I don't know what else to say. He drove out of state to dump your senior dog. Next time, he's going to hit her with his car. He called you and your little daughter idiots. Wow. Anyone who would do this isn't safe for you or your daughter to be around. The fact that he could do this to a small, old dog shows that he lacks empathy. His jealousy of the attention given to a dog makes him look like a narcissist. And he felt nothing for your grief and lied to your face repeatedly. Please consider the getting away part seriously. Mini update. I'm already planning a divorce. I will never trust him again, and I'll see a lawyer soon. I might have a lot to lose as I'm earning significantly more than him and will probably need to pay spousal support. I bought the house before we were married. It's in my name and I paid most of it off before we married, so I might be safe. My dog is currently at my parents' place, and he is livid about it and how he deserves trust, yet still he insists that he did that for her own good. He's always annoyed at how much time she spends with Ellie and has in the past accused our daughter of liking the dog more than her dad and said misogynistic things about how daughters are not close to dads and see them as providers. I've saved multiple other things from documents, records, etc., and have cloud backups and encrypted drives stored with friends and my parents. It makes me wonder what stuff he's done that we don't know about. I'm a female teen, learning how to drive in my sister's 19 car. My sister and I have very different standards of cleanliness. Her room is always messy. She has no problem wearing dirty clothes, sleeps with our dog, doesn't wash her face, and only washes her hair once or twice a week. I knew she eats in her car because her booster seat thing had sesame seeds in the holes, and I sometimes see fast food wrappers in the car, but I just take off the booster thing and ignore it. I got home the other day, and she was eating in her car, and there was food everywhere. It was disgusting. I told her to stop eating in her car when she came inside because it grossed me out. She said it's not my car, so it's not my choice. But I told her I drive it almost daily. She told me she has 25 minutes to eat and get to work after class, and her work is 15 minutes away from her school, so she's going to eat wherever she wants. And if I have a problem with it, I can buy my own car. I told her I couldn't work if I couldn't drive, and she told me that was not her problem. She hasn't been letting me drive her car because apparently it's disgusting, and she's been kind of witchy to me. I wanted to know if I was the idiot for telling her not to eat in her car. You are the idiot. It's her car. Why can't she eat in it? Because it grosses you out? That's fine. Don't use her car then. What about mom or dad's car? Also, the hygiene practices you listed at the beginning are not that gross. She's very generous, letting you drive her car almost daily. Apologize and stop acting entitled to her car. Beggars can't be choosers. The grossest thing listed is sleeping with dogs. I have 2 dogs, 3 cats, and a husband on my bed. I must be plague incarnate. Not to mention, it's recommended to only wash your hair once or twice a week for your general health anyway. Also, your "I can't get a job if I can't drive" is an excuse. Do you know how many people I know who have worked and can't drive? You figure it out. But if you want to set rules in a car, buy yourself one. I've seen many people figure it out, from riding a bike to catching public transport, or with others so young, parents giving them a ride. Well, that wasn't very smart, was it? Someone is doing you a favor, and you repay them by saying they gross you out and trying to make demands you have no right to make. And now they've rescinded that favor, as most would. Don't insult people and still expect them to like you or help you. You've ruined your own chance at driving her vehicle. My wife and I welcomed our daughter, Kala, into the world in June. Since our daughter's birth, my wife has struggled with PPD and PPA. It has been a very rough road for her, and I was lucky to take some extended paternity leave so I could be around more for both of them. I say all this because everyone in our life knows how much my wife has been struggling since her birth. When my wife was expecting, we didn't announce the name. My mom said announcing the name before the baby is born can lead to many unwanted opinions that can be stressful for the pregnant person. So we waited and announced her name with her birth. Quickly, when my wife's sister visited the hospital, my wife's sister told her she couldn't understand us choosing the name. She said it was weird. She didn't think it was even a name, and told my wife she should have sought opinions on it. My wife told her sister we loved it, which is what mattered. She and her sister have a contentious relationship, and my wife is half afraid of this woman. I suggested to my wife's sister that she could keep her mouth shut, but she just rolled her eyes at me. She said something to my wife twice more while alone with her, and when my wife was starting to find day-to-day incredibly difficult. So when she brought it up again, in front of more people this time, and by saying she hated the name and would never choose that for her daughter, nor would she have expected us to pick such an ugly name, I decided I'd had enough. This woman shrugs off being firm or serious, so I decided to be mocking. I was like, OMG, how could we not take what you want into account? How could we be so selfish? Of course we should have taken your opinion into account over ours, because your opinion is clearly so much better than ours, and everyone clearly thinks your taste in everything is the best. How can we live with ourselves for not getting your opinion on our daughter's name? Then saying, it's just as well. We decided to listen to our own hearts on the name because who knows what she would have come up with when she's clearly very full of herself. The people around us laughed, including my wife, who had looked close to tears before that. Sister-in-law was furious and said making fun of her was childish on my part. She was so enraged, it was funny, because I've seen people yell at the top of their lungs at her, and she'll shrug it off. Sister-in-law said she was looking out for our daughter, and I crossed the line. That everyone laughed, but most would still support her. A few people did congratulate me on standing up for ourselves in the only way to make an impact with my wife's sister. But the woman did not learn anything from it, and while it made my wife smile for real for the first time since our daughter was born, I worry her sister will just retaliate on her, even though it's me who she's angry at. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, and good for you. Calla is a name. It's Greek and means beautiful, and as someone who adores calla lilies, I think it's a lovely choice for a daughter. To be honest, while you might have framed it mockingly, none of what you said to sister-in-law was wrong. She's your daughter. Nobody else's opinions matter. Her crapping on the name, which is a name, isn't looking out for your daughter. It's being a self-obsessed idiot. Considering your family thought it was hilarious, and so many people were glad you angered her, she's probably had this coming for a long time. Well done. You've also found her emotional Achilles heel, so the rest of the family knows how to put her in her place in the future. I say no contact with the sister until your wife is stronger and more mentally healthy. None of you need that negativity in your life as you start to build your beautiful new family. Here's the situation. I, 29 female, have been seeing a man, Zach, 38, that I met on Hinge for a month. He's generally a cool guy who seems non-judgmental. Yesterday night, he came over to my place for the first time. I live in a single-family home that I bought earlier this year. We're in a high cost of living area, and the house is a little over $1 million. I work hard in my career and have a high-paying job, which Zach knows about, but I come from a low-income family and grew up near the poverty line. Zach works at a nonprofit and is not as financially privileged as me, which I don't care about, but he stayed the night, and this morning, he made a comment that just left a bad taste in my mouth. His comment implied that my parents must have helped me buy the house. It felt incredibly condescending and patronizing, and I also feel like he wouldn't have said or thought this if I were older or a man. His comment upset me, and I called him out for being condescending and patronizing. He briefly apologized. Oh, sorry. He tried to justify it by saying that he thought there were other signs that I came from a rich family, like having attended an elite college and driving a car my parents gave me, a 6-year-old Honda Accord. I was still upset, and he ended up leaving. Later today, he texted me, saying he had apologized for his assumption and that it wasn't cool that I called him condescending and patronizing for no reason. Am I the idiot for this? In my opinion, if he wasn't a condescending and patronizing person, then he wouldn't have made that assumption in the first place. I feel like the natural thinking would have been that I worked hard and did it myself, not that I must have had my rich parents help me. Edit. For more context on what he said, we were talking about how the city is so expensive to live in, and he said, "It's cool how you were able to buy this place. It's awesome when the family can help." Not the idiot. Zach isn't being condescending. He's being insecure and probably jealous because you've made sound financial decisions and worked hard to get where you are. The age difference compounds this. His way of coping is to imply your parents contributed significantly to your financial success. This would relieve him of his self-imposed burden of being a failure when compared to you. You've been seeing him for a month. It sounds like he isn't worth getting to know more deeply. Go ahead and move on. I don't think I can call him an idiot I'm from a high cost of living area, and if I saw someone under 30 buying their first house, and a $1 million one at that, I think I would come to the same conclusion as boyfriend. That's not because I underestimate women or whatever, but because in HCOLs, parents helping kids buy their first house is so common and is the norm, to the point where we have a term for it, bank of mom and dad. He was still condescending. He could have admitted it and apologized for it. I would be mortified if I made that assumption and it turned out to be wrong. You called him as you saw him, a condescending and patronizing idiot. And you're right. If you were some bro he met at the gym, he would have been impressed at your success. But since you're a woman, what man helped you? Run. I started to teach my daughter how to drive back when she was 16. Teaching her how to drive never went smoothly. She claimed I was screaming at her too much while panicking in the passenger seat, trying to get her to listen to me. There was even one particularly big argument where I said, "You're not a good driver yet, so you need to listen to me." To which she said, "Well, Mom, you're not a good teacher." After a few months of that, my daughter told me she didn't want me to teach her anymore and that she would go to a driver's school to learn how to drive. I told her she could do that, but she wouldn't use our car to drive then because I won't feel comfortable driving our car without our approval. Honestly, I thought my daughter was just throwing a tantrum and we'd resume our driving lessons after a few weeks or so. Over the past year or so, however, my daughter has picked up a part-time job online, started Ubering to a driving school, and always claimed she's always too busy at the time when I offered to teach her to drive again. And then she took the driver's license test with a friend's car and got her license. Now she's recently bought a better car with the money she saved up. What bothers me is that I was only a concerned parent who wanted to teach my daughter how to drive safely. She's ignored all of that, and to me, it's very presumptuous for her to think she can just park her car in our driveway and we're not going to question. It's clear she thinks she's outsmarted us, but I don't think allowing it to happen is a good lesson to teach. So I told her she couldn't park her car here and she needed to find another place to put it. And now suddenly I'm the bad guy. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. She didn't ignore you. She didn't think she outsmarted you. She worked her butt off to pay for her own driving lessons, car, etc., because she didn't like you as a driving teacher, and she's now proven her ability to drive to your state. You're just sour grapes now because she proved she's self-sufficient, and the best way to remind her that she's not is by banning her car from your driveway? What's going to happen next? She'll prove how self-sufficient and independent she is by getting an apartment so she can avoid your irrational driveway rule. Good job, Mom. If this was my kid, I'd be seriously proud that they had the initiative and grit to get their license and buy a car without my help, and that she took up for herself when you were treating her in a way when she knew she deserved better. Exactly this. It's a power play. A teen threatened their authority by being independent and genius problem solving. Now they can't use lessons, or you can't use our car, as something to hold over her. There's just so much bitterness here. I'm wondering if this is both parents or just one. Oh, I bet it's just one. The other one probably was proud and snuck her $20 for gas. The fact that you're so controlling that even though she completed a driver's ed course and is a licensed driver, you won't let her park in your driveway is ridiculous. This was never about you. It was about your daughter learning how to drive, which she's done. If you keep this up, you'll soon find that she's parking her car at her new apartment as she moves away and rarely visits.